Good morning, YouTubers. T-Square here with T-Square Talk. Hope everybody's having a great day. Got a really awesome video for you guys. I was kind of waiting on doing this one because it doesn't totally involve what's going on with the stock market. It kind of has to do more with the dollar and what I believe to be a reset coming. But here's how I want to do a different twist, because everybody on YouTube talks about how there's a reset. I want to do a video showing you guys some information, some data about the dollar, what's going on with the dollar, some of the stuff going on in the economy, like the volatility and stuff. And I want you to tell me, do you think there will be a reset coming in the near future within 5 years? Now, near future, I'm saying 5 years for this video because here's the thing. Everybody wants to get in the day before the reset. I mean, who wouldn't want to? I mean, you just max out your card, get in as much silver and gold as you can, and then the reset comes and boom, you're golden. But the truth of the matter is nobody actually knows when it's going to happen. But what we do know is we can see the signs that it's starting to slowly change and some stuff ain't adding up. Kind of like taking car loans and going from 4 years to 5 years to 6 years and even 7 years now. Taking home loans, going from what used to be 20 years to 30 years to 40, and now in some cases 50-year home loans. But it doesn't stop there. It goes all the way to crazy little stuff, and we're going to talk about that, like DoorDash now doing pay now, eat now, pay later. I mean, think about that. You're going to buy some tacos, you're going to have it delivered to you, and you can pay for it later. Or you can pay for it in installments. Now, this is kind of comical to me, and I'm going to explain a little bit more why once we get into the video. So if you enjoyed today's video, help me out. I'm coming off I'll say a bad day for views yesterday because the video I put up yesterday, it didn't really do much. I was kind of surprised because I thought certified slabs at really bullion prices was a super awesome deal. Although I guess the subscriber base didn't think that as well. So let me know your thoughts on how today's video goes. Help me out. Hit that thumbs up. Leave a comment on, do you think that there is essentially a reset coming? And with that being said, if you're not subscribed, do the ultimate. Help me out by hitting that subscribe button. Special thank you goes out to all of our members. We will be doing some sort of a special event for our members. We do it every month for some free silver, but we might actually do another one this weekend. I don't know exactly when because we did one in the evening the other day for a chance at some free silver. I want to do another one, but I've had a couple people say it's not fair because some members are different time zones and earlier in the day might be better, maybe on a weekend, and see how many people show up. I mean, everybody wants to win some free silver. So with that being said, let's jump right in. If you'd like to become a member, it is only $1.99, and I can't thank you enough. It helps out the channel. If you're on an Apple or an iPhone, you do have to go to your web browser, go to youtube.com, and then go to T-Square Talk, and then from there you will see the join button. If you're on an Android, you can hit join instantly. With that being said, let's jump right in. But what happened in the markets today, if I can I wonder why my silver price isn't there. Usually my silver prices are, oh, there it is. Okay. So taking a look, what happened with silver today? Honestly, I was extremely discouraged. We saw a nice little climb in silver, which is encouraging for the silver that I already have. However, I was actually working out a deal to try to work on a purchase of 100 ounces, and then all of a sudden a dollar jump kind of threw a wrench in that. And the specific ounces that I was looking at, I don't know if they go up by a dollar with what's going on. I don't know if I want them. I hate to say that. At the end of the day, silver's silver. This dip that we've seen, it did spark some interest. A lot of people saw silver price literally get destroyed all the way down, and this really ain't even really a good judge of it, because this is showing 29.30, 29.14. However, we've seen it dip even lower. Oh, here, this one's a good one. This one actually shows it at 28 and a quarter. So you could have picked up some great deals. Really, with as soon as you got it, your premiums were instantly washed away, because when you look at the price, that's a $3 jump in just the last 5 days. Now, let's be honest. We've seen silver get destroyed. We've seen gold get destroyed. But does it really matter at the end of the day when everything is manipulated the way it is? And we're going to get into that here a little bit too. Taking a quick look at gold, we got gold really up phenomenally. Taking a 5-day chart on gold and seeing how low gold went, we got 29.67, we got 29.58, and 29.57. However, it actually should have, this doesn't really show exact. I wish this chart showed the high and the low, because it actually dipped even lower than that. But even if you go off of that 29.50 and you look at what it is now, you're essentially at $170 up. I mean, just in the last day, it's up $130. So we're starting to really see the climb again. And what's interesting is, even with that huge beatdown that we've seen on gold and silver last week, where people were calling me a pump and dumper on gold and silver, like I'm sitting on a Fort Knox and I just sold it all to drive the price down, because ultimately the price really didn't do anything. It went down because of paper, and paper prices pushed the price of it down, and now we're almost right back up to the high. What are we at? What are we off? We're off maybe $30 from the high. We're still sitting at $3,120. And really all that did is paper hit the market and flooded in, and it got sold off, and then all of a sudden, the price come down. A lot of us stackers picked it up. A lot of central banks picked it up. A lot of big bullion dealers picked it up. They're buying. They understand what's going on. And, a lot of people just don't get it. All they see is, they listen to what the news says. And let's be honest, the news is biased. I hate to say that. I know some people will disagree with that. They think everything you hear on TV is correct and true, and they want to say that these YouTubers don't really have a clue what's going on. Now, I will say we're not licensed financial advisors. Most of us here on YouTube are just everyday people, but we're kind of a little eccentric, I'll say. I know I am. We spend a lot of time researching the numbers, looking at what's going on, thinking about how things are playing out. And when you see stuff like the Dow Jones going up 3,000 points or 8% in one day, you have to ask yourself, does that really make sense? I mean, think about that. 8% gains on the Dow Jones in one day? That is volatility like really we haven't seen since 2008. And I know some people don't remember that. I was big in the stock market in 2008, and I loved the volatility because it was just a lot of room to make money, it seemed like. You could buy and then sell literally a day later, and you just made a bunch of money. And, you pay your taxes to Uncle Sam, and then you move on, you wait for the next volatility day. But when you have stuff like this happening, I'll be honest, a lot of this people will say, well, that's because Trump eased back on the tariffs. And to a certain point, yes, he did. But all he did was push them back. In fact, that's really all he has done with tariffs for the most part. He calls them and then pushes them back a month, calls them, pushes them back a month, calls them, pushes them back a month. Here we are now calling them and pushing them back. I heard 3 months. I don't know if that's true yet because I haven't read a whole lot on the exact wording of what was said. But, I mean, think of that, 8% up in one day. Where is the reason and rationality? What changed in that one day? And I'm sure someone out there is going to come out and say, oh, that's because of this, that's because of that. Okay, let's be honest, though. I mean, they're telling you what you want to hear, and they don't want you to see what's really happening. Taking a quick look at the NASDAQ, which is even more comical, 12% in one day. Up 1,800 657 points in one day. I mean, really wiping out all the losses almost that we have seen. Now, to me, I don't know if that was the plunge protection team. I don't know if, it was just people buying back in. I don't know if that was the rich elites trying to sway Trump to do something different and selling their positions. But ultimately, I mean, they're the ones that are going to lose out, because the truth of the matter is the dollar is getting inflated away. It's getting debased away. We're going to get to that here in a few minutes. And once you understand that that's happening, really, I'll be honest, anything is better than the dollar. I mean, even though I'm not a fan of Bitcoin, I'm not a fan of stocks right now, I'll be honest, if people start putting their money into it, who knows what could happen. But ultimately, the true safe haven, in my opinion, is gold and silver. It always has been, and it always will be. You look at the stock market, there's so much manipulation in there, in my opinion, now. And someone's going to probably comment, prove that there's manipulation in the stock market. And there's really no evidence for sure of it. It's only that it doesn't make sense what's going on. And some people can argue it doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense to the people that listen to CNN or Fox or whatever the case may be. Gold and silver, there has been proven manipulation, that they manipulate gold and silver down. That way they can acquire more physical ounces as they flood the market with paper. Taking a quick look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin was interesting. It did go up today a little bit. However, it's still down 0.5% for the day. Not really anything spectacular when you really look at it compared to what else has happened in gold, in stocks, and everything. Now, jumping in real quick, I want to take a quick minute and talk a little bit about this DoorDash deal. So literally, DoorDash has partnered up with a company to where you can buy your dinner, your breakfast, your lunch now and pay later. Now, some people might say, well, that's no different than buying on a credit card. But the thing is, when they're breaking down payments of your taco meal, I mean, think about that. If you're paying for your dinner in 4 installments, what are they really doing here? They're trying to promote people to spend money even if they don't have it. And what that's doing is that is pushing people to look more at the monthly payment than look at their overall situation. The truth of the matter is, if you have to break down your taco lunch or your Whataburger or whatever you eat into 4 payments, there's a problem when you really think about it. Now, what really brought some of this to my attention was I was talking to a lady the other day, and she might be moving. And I asked her, I said, what are you going to do with your washer and dryer? Are you going to move it, or are you going to sell it, or are you just going to leave it here? And she said, well, I rent it. And I said, what? She said, yeah, I rent my washer. I said, what do you mean you rent your washer? I said, like at Rent-A-Center? She goes, yeah, but not Rent-A-Center, another company. I said, in my mind, I found that so strange because, and I understand everybody's in different positions, but the thing is, when you rent something like that, what do you really have to show for it in a year, in 2 years? I mean, a washer could last a while, and literally when you move, you just threw that money away. You know, there's an old saying, the rich don't rent. And, you know, it's true. And I'm not saying, if you rent, oh, that's bad. But I think if you're renting, you need to consider that when it's over, you've got nothing to show for. I'll be honest, I rent my modem. And I've been renting my modem now for 3 years, maybe even 4 years since I've been going live. And at that price, even though it's only $10 a month, I could have more than bought a couple of modems. And I keep saying I'm going to go to Best Buy one of these days, figure out what kind of modem I need, and just buy it and quit paying the $10 a month. But in the meantime, I hate to say it, I keep putting it off, and in fact, that might be on my list for this week. I want to move on now that I've talked a little bit about how hurting the average American is. I mean, you look at how much Americans are in debt. It's almost like there's no end. And it's not just Americans. It's also the United States government. When you get in a situation like that, there is no happy ending. You know, when you're in debt, $50,000, $60,000 on credit cards and you're paying 19% interest, there's almost no outcome where you're going to ever get out of it. It's just a matter of time before you essentially bankrupt what you owe. I actually know someone right now that she's pretty heavy into debt. And when I talk to her, her attitude is, well, once I get my house, will it really matter how much debt that I'm in? You know, as long as I get my house, I get the items I need, does it really matter? And it's sad in a way that people think like that, but it's totally understandable that people are getting strapped. And if they're not willing to make hard choices, and here's the thing, once you're so deep in, there's almost no hard choice that you can make to get out of that hole. You're just too far. You've dug your hole too deep. And I think that's the big thing, the big difference in a lot of stackers. Stackers are building a savings. They're putting a small amount of money in precious metals every day, and their stack is growing. But not only is their stack growing, but when you look out at it, 3 months, although right now it doesn't look good because we did see that big dip. But over time, here, we'll look at year to date. That's 3 months. That's 100 days so far this year. We're up a little bit, but here's the thing. If it wasn't for this huge drop that we just experienced the other day, that's already rebounding. I mean, you know, you've got to wonder, where would we be today? Going back a year out, you can really see the gains. Going out 5 years out, you can really see the gains. If you go all the way out, you know, it's nonstop up. Now, gold, obviously, you know, you can see it even more in gold when you go out 6 months. Look at that. Even 3 months, it looks good. I wonder how a month will look. A month even looks good. You know, we're not far from our all-time high, really. Year to date looks good. 1 year out looks good. 5 years out looks good. It's all uphill. And a lot of people just don't understand that. Now, I want to shift over again. I kind of keep shifting over. And I want to talk a little bit right now about the constitutional definition of the dollar and what the dollar was meant to be. The United States dollar was actually meant to be 371 grains of pure silver. I don't know how many of you have ever seen a grain. There's actually a bunch of these companies that sell these little cards with 1 grain of silver on it. And I always find that funny because there is a really high markup on those 1 grains. I think you're paying $1 a grain, which when you think about it, you know, $371, and you're essentially paying for 0.77 ounces of silver. You know, so once you realize that, you understand the dollar was meant to be actual silver. Now, jumping over so I can tie all this together here in a minute, I want people to take a quick look at in 1910. So that was almost 100. It was a little over 100 years ago. The average worker made between $200 and $400 per year, with an average wage of 22 cents. Yes, that's 22 cents an hour. I could not believe that. I was like, wow, 22 cents an hour. But think about what that is exactly. That is 22 cents. That's essentially 20% of a Morgan dollar. So take a Morgan dollar's value today and 22%, you're talking a little over $5 at today's rate. Now, if we didn't have the manipulation that we have on silver, silver would actually be a whole lot higher, though. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand there's a huge amount of manipulation in silver, which makes silver look cheaper than it is. And, you know, so once people start to realize that, they understand, man, why the manipulation? We've talked about that on numerous videos. A dollar is actually 90% silver. A lot of you know that. They changed that in 1965. They didn't want silver. Why did they not want silver? Because they recognized that silver was money. They needed to find a way to take control of all of the money here in the U.S. Money. Now, by money, I don't mean fiat. It's not all the time that I will separate the two. I think it's important that people do understand what money is and what fiat is. I will say a lot of the time money and fiat in the same terminology. And I probably shouldn't do that, but I do that because the average person, when they hear money, they think dollars. because the average new person, they're trying to understand what's going on, and so they don't really understand the true difference. In order for something to be money, it can't really be manipulated. It has to be a store of your wealth. But right now, the way the system's set up, they can manipulate the price of silver down, and people don't realize that silver and gold is money. They think the dollar is money. And the truth of the matter is the dollar is being heavily manipulated. When you look at the DXY, when you look at some of the volatility that's in the market, it just doesn't really make sense that we can have this much and people think it's normal. I mean, think about that. 3,000 points in one day on the stock market, a 12.5% jump on the NASDAQ. How do you explain them numbers aside from manipulation and, I don't want to say stupidity, because, hey, if I had a lot of money in the stock market, I would be cheering it on. And I know a lot of people are holding, but I don't really think that many people that are stackers are actually holding huge amounts of money in the stock market. The stock market holders are usually the more wealthier classes in terms of the way the system is set up today. However, I would beg to differ that the wealthier classes are actually the silver and gold stackers, because that's true wealth. It's just going to take a little time before it gets realized that that is true wealth. And when the reset does come, because if you've got people that are having to finance their lunch, what is that saying? That is saying that we are on the last legs of a system that cannot sustain itself, that the debt has grown too out of control. And the scary thing is going to be what is going to happen when the debt does essentially reset. Will it reset? Will people all be just I don't want to say enslaved, but essentially what is going to happen? There's an old word, it's called indentured servitude. I'm probably not saying it correctly. Indentured servitude, I think, is the actual name, where people, if they owed too much money, they weren't really a slave to someone, but they were obligated to work that debt off. Can you imagine if we got some sort of a system where we had to go back to that? How do you pay off the amount of money that they have let us go into debt through manipulation? I mean, you'll have people buying people's debt just to essentially own people. And I'm not saying we're going to get there necessarily, but there's a lot of people that think, oh, they're just going to reset the system. We're all going to be debt free. We're going to start over. And that's a firm possibility. I won't say that's not a possible scenario. You would have to have the high ups kind of essentially let everybody off the hook. Do you really think they're going to want to let everybody off the hook once they've already got them? It's like catching that, 22, 23-inch red, and then all of a sudden you're just going to throw it back in the water instead of take it home and have some fried redfish. So it doesn't make sense, essentially, where we're at, the direction we're heading, to not reset the system. Because at a certain point, people do start losing hope. Once the middle class, the lower class lose hope, there's no point in going to work. There's no point in being a productive member of society. You will have more and more people start wanting to get on social benefits, and I don't want to say welfare and that type of stuff, but essentially that is what it is. They're going to look for ways to kind of just skate by. A lot of people will just shift over to letting go and go to homelessness. A lot of people will move in with 2-3 family members in one home. You'll maybe have grandkids. You'll have the parents, the grandparents, and in some cases, even a fourth generation of family members living all under the same roof, because there's no end, because rent is too high. It's too expensive to own a home. Once people get desperate like that, the system has to reset to push everybody back to work, to reset the system. And I do believe it is coming, but it's up to you what you think. Do you think the reset is coming? This was just a little bit more information about the census. on different pay over time. I found it interesting as I started combing through here. I actually at one point was trying to estimate my stack and then divided it by 0.77 to figure out how many dollars my stack could have maybe been melted down into, and then multiply it by how much I would have back then, and then see what kind of lifestyle I would be living. And when you have houses selling for essentially $2,500 back then, I mean, there's incentive to go to work. It is doable. But right now, it's just not. I mean, it doesn't make sense where we are at. What was this last thing that I opened up? Oh, this was just some prices for different items that I found interesting. A 5-cent loaf of bread. Look at where we're at now on a loaf of bread. I would say roughly a loaf of bread, and you guys would have to be the judge. I buy the cheap bread, which is $1.10, I think. You're talking basically 22x. Now, what does that remind you of? 22x. A gallon, 22x instantly makes me think of junk silver. As you multiply that out, let's see, a dozen eggs, 14 cents. Do I have my calculator right here? Let me see here what 22x times 14 cents would be. I'm curious now. Boom. Darn it. I always hit the calendar. Give me a quick second. And you'll start to see here, there is a trend. And a lot of it comes, it moves around silver. But eggs, 14 cents. So clear 0.14 times 22, 308. Okay, I guess eggs are a lot more than 308 right now. But I want people, too, to understand eggs might be a little biased on that note. Because essentially eggs are, after they destroyed all those birds during the whole bird issue. Certain terms we don't use here on YouTube. But I found it interesting, the different prices, 12-cent gas, but this was all based on silver. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you hit the thumbs up button. If you made it this far, I love to hear that you made it to the end. It always makes me feel good because I always feel bad if I make the videos too long. However, YouTube tends to like to share videos that are right around the 30-minute timestamp, even though I always feel bad because I think a lot of people, it's hard to keep up with a 30-minute video and actually make it all the way to the end. I actually did a video a while back where I had asked people to let me know what they thought about this coin and should I give one away. And I was kind of shocked for how many people watched the video to how many people actually commented, yeah, give one away on the channel. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of people, they just don't make it. And I always feel good when people do actually make it all the way to the end. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Please check out some of our other great videos. Well, lately, we have been dedicating most of the videos to gold and silver. And a lot of that does revolve around what is going on and the excitement around gold and silver. I mean, last year, we had huge gains on both metals, and I would not be surprised to see huge gains again this year. Yeah, we did tank this past week, but we've already recovered almost all of it in gold, and I think it's just a buying opportunity anyway for silver. If I can pick up silver again for what I could pick it up for at the beginning of the year, then to me, that's kind of a buying opportunity. With that being said, the biggest opportunity may be gone. We may see it again if we keep experiencing some heavy volatility, but we'll see what happens. I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you guys again on T-Square Talk. Thank you all for watching. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys again next time on T-Square Talk. Take care. We do a video every day of the week. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.